Hello everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I'm going to be going over my top 5 premium aircraft in WarThunder. Now this list will differ a lot from other lists covering the same topic. Most lists primarily focus on grinding out a whole tech tree and picking one aircraft to do it. My list is going to be focused on how fun an aircraft is, and that's what I'm going to be ranking them on. So first criteria is how fun it is and how unique it is. And thirdly, it'll be how effective it is at grinding and also how strong it is. But I'm primarily going to be trying to avoid stuff that's going to be copy-paste between tech trees and mostly focusing on aircraft that are going to be fun and unique to play. Starting off at number 5, we have the Wyvern S4. Now, the Wyvern is a very unique aircraft in WarThunder. It has a contra-rotating propeller and it's a turboprop. And the Wyvern in particular is at a very low battle rating, 4.3, and this means that it is much, much faster than the majority of the aircraft that it will be going up against. It also has an impressive bomb load and it's an excellent strike aircraft in both air realistic and ground realistic aircraft. You can outrun pretty much any other aircraft at its battle rating, and can easily hit ground bases well before the enemy can be able to intercept you and take you out. Because of its air spawn, it is also equally viable to forego taking a bomb load, and just go after attacking enemy strike aircraft that are attempting to bomb your bases. It's a very good interceptor, and if you decide to take the bomb load, after you're done intercepting enemy aircraft, you can go and bomb their bases as well. While its speed and its heavy cannon armor may already seem like the perfect aircraft, it has one other trick up its sleeve: the heavy ground ordnance that it brings. It can carry a wide variety of rockets, including AP Mark 1s, RP-3s, and Red Angel rockets. And if you wanted to, you could also carry a torpedo. But I found that 3 1,000-pound bombs are by far the best option to take, regardless of what battle you're going into. And air realistic, this gives you the capability to take out any base other than the airfield. And in ground realistic, because they are dropped individually, you can take up 3 different ground targets without having to waste bombs. And you still have cannons that can strafe other ground targets that are open-topped. Overall, this is a very solid aircraft, and I highly recommend picking it up if you ever have the opportunity to. It's very fun, but you have to remember it is not a fighter, and if you are going to engage in other aircraft, you need to be able to do boom and zoom tactics, and you cannot try to turn fight in this thing. It has a turning time of 32 seconds, which is nearly double some other aircraft that it'll come up against. So as long as you keep your speed up, and that's when you're most maneuverable, you'll do fine. And you can outrun pretty much anything at its battle rating, so don't feel like you have to get into a dogfight. Moving on to number 4, we have the premium BF-109 F4 that is in the American tech tree. Now, this aircraft, while it's a very, very solid aircraft, and I've had a lot of fun flying it, and I've ground out quite a bit of the American tech tree with it, along with some other premium aircraft, I have to put it at number 4, mostly because it's not unique. If you want this aircraft, you can fly it in the German tech tree. You could also put a talisman on it in the German tech tree, and you'll get very similar results. But if you're a fan of American aircraft and you really like the 109, this may be a good one to pick up. Just like its German siblings, the American 109 has an incredible climb rate, equal to that of the XP-50. And speaking of the XP-50, you won't have to fight them since they'll be on your same team. And compared to the XP-50, this aircraft I find is a lot more fun to fly, and requires a little bit more skill than the XP-50 because you don't get an air spawn. But all your weapons are clustered together very tightly on the nose, meaning you don't have to worry about convergence issues. I found this aircraft to be highly maneuverable and very agile, and you can take on most other aircraft at its battle rating. And if you're an arcade player, I find it pairs very nicely with a lot of other American aircraft in the tech tree, and you can create a very nice lineup, including with some of the other premium aircraft in here, such as the XP-50 or the P-51D-20. The one drawback of the American 109 is that, unlike the German version, it cannot equip the gun pods. I think this is probably because when it was captured it probably wasn't equipped with them, but if you're looking for a premium 109 that can equip the gun pods, look at the Italian tree. They have a 109 F4 that is available on the marketplace, and it's typically reasonably priced. It also was a battle pass vehicle, so if you did get it through that, it's available there. It's a very solid aircraft there as well, just kind of fun and different from a lot of the Italian aircraft. Although a lot of Italian aircraft at that battle rating do have the same or a license-built version of the same Daimler brand engine. In the American tree, it's a little bit more agile than comparable aircraft at its battle rating, so it gives you a little bit more uniqueness, but it still is the same energy retention, boom and zoom kind of style that most American aircraft have. So if you're a new player kind of looking at a mid-tier aircraft to get in the American tree, I would probably pick this one. It gives you a lot of just ways to play. You will learn a lot about the American tech tree and also the German tech tree if you move on to that. It's a very solid aircraft. It will serve you well. It'll teach you the fundamentals of the aircraft, which is something that the XP50 will not do. So if you want something that's going to be very brain dead to play, pick up the XP50. If you want something that's going to be fun to play, get the 109 F4. And I really wouldn't recommend getting the P-51 D20. It really hasn't been all that fun. So overall, that's what I would probably pick if I was going to pick one American aircraft. And we'll move on to number 3. The HE-112B1/U2 is probably my most played aircraft when I was first getting into WarThunder. I played this thing a ton, and it really helped me learn the fundamentals of the game. At Battle Rating 2.0, it's a very, very solid aircraft. You're faster than a lot of the aircraft you'll be coming up against, especially if you get down-tiered. And that speed is incredibly helpful because when you get down-tiered, most of the biplanes you're going to be coming up against are able to outturn you. So you have to learn how to do hit and run and boom and zoom tactics, which is something that the German tech tree will need a lot anyway. However, you're also extremely agile, and you can outturn the majority of things at your battle rating, and the only time that you have to worry about something being able to compete with you and outturn you is if you get up tiered and you're fighting stuff like the Spitfire. But most things at your battle rating, and even some things below your battle rating, you'll actually be able to outturn them, and you have a lot of firepower. You have 2 MG FM 20mm cannons, the same ones as on the 109E series, and you have 2 7.92mm machine guns, which are also the same as on the 109, and they're both either wing-mounted or nose-mounted respectively, in an identical configuration to the 109E models. So, even though this is at a lower battle rating, you've got the same firepower as later German aircraft, and you already have them in the same position, so you can learn the weapon convergences well before you get into this aircraft. This aircraft is incredibly strong, and outperforms the majority of aircraft at its battle rating, and can handle itself pretty well in an up tier. And if you get into a down tier, you're going to dominate everything. I highly recommend this aircraft. It's in the German tech tree, and it's also in the Italian tech tree. Both of those are the remaining one. I do not believe the Hungarian one is available anymore, which is very sad. I'm not sure why the Hungarian one didn't get moved into the Italian tech tree. It seems like it should be there with all the other Hungarian vehicles. But maybe it will be in the future. We'll have to see what Gaijin does. But this has been a very long time favorite of mine and my dad's, and we used to play it a lot together when I was first starting out on WarThunder. And the only reason it's at number 3 instead of number 2 is because number 2 is an incredible value, and that's basically it. This would be number 2 if it wasn't for that. Taking the coveted second place slot, we have the P-40F-5 Lafayette. Now this aircraft is in the French tech tree, and is part of the French starter pack bundle. This bundle also includes the Char B1 Terror premium tank, as well as 7 days of premium time and 120 Silver Lions for $10. Now the premium time and the Silver Lions end up equaling around $10, so really you're getting premium time and Silver Lions, which are the in-game currency, and you're getting 2 premium vehicles, one a plane, one a tank, and they pair very nicely with each other, for free. So that's the way I would look at it, and it's an incredible value. All the starter packs are great values, but I find this one in particular to be a very good value, because both these vehicles are actually good, unlike some of the other ones. Now, the P-40F-5 Lafayette is a copy-paste from the American tech tree. So if you've flown the American one, it's identical to that, including the weapons payload. So it's not very unique, which almost knocked it down to 3rd place on my list. But because it has such an incredible lineup that I can pair with on the ground, with both versions of the Char B1, you have the Crusader Mark II, you have the M3A3 Stuart, And coming soon in the next update, you're going to have a new French armored car that is going to be featuring a P-40 cannon. So that'll be a very nice addition to the French lineup. And this aircraft does extremely well in ground battles, and it does very well in air battles. You have a 500-pound bomb and two 100-pound bombs, and most of the time that I end up using this aircraft, I get several ground targets in ground realistic battles. Also, with 650 caliber machine guns, you have a lot of firepower for both taking down aircraft and taking down open-top vehicles. And at this lower battle rating, there are a lot of open-top vehicles that you can take apart, as well as very lightly armed light tanks. So, whether using bombs or just strafing targets, this aircraft will do well. It's fast, it's really well armored. Most American aircraft are rugged. This one is very rugged, especially because it's at a lower battle rating. So most aircraft that you're coming up against are going to have lighter weapons. So you can actually take a lot of punishment, including from AA, and you're going to do well in this aircraft. It'll serve you well. It'll do whatever you want it to do. Ground attack, air superiority, doesn't matter. It'll get it done. This one, I believe, was given to the French in North Africa. And I believe the squadron that it was given to had ties to the Lafayette escadrille from World War I. So if you're interested in it from a history perspective, it also has some pretty cool history as well. And coming in at number 1, we have what has become my favorite aircraft to fly in WarThunder, and has become one of my most played aircraft, and that is the Seahawk Mark 100. Now, there's also the Seahawk Mark 50 in the French tech tree, and that aircraft is completely identical to the Seahawk Mark 100, other than a name and a slight bump on the top of the fuselage. But other than that, everything I say about the Seahawk Mark 100 will apply to the French Seahawk Mark 50. Both these aircraft are at 8.0 battle rating, and they are incredible there. They are the only aircraft that are able to carry AIM-9B Sidewinder missiles. And while the AIM-9B is not the best missile, it does have its uses, especially on an aircraft like this. The Seahawk Mark 100 is a relatively slow aircraft for its battle rating. Don't expect to be able to catch most things, but if you're able to gain some altitude and get the drop on somebody, you can actually get pretty good results out of this aircraft. You're not as fast as a Sabre or a MiG-15, but you actually have a lot of maneuverability, and you have very strong flaps you can use to your advantage. Just a word of caution is that you cannot use the flaps and the air brakes at the same time. You have quad 20mm Hispano cannons under the nose. They're low mounted, but they're actually very good for ground attacking, which is what this aircraft originally was designed to do. It can carry two 1,000-pound bombs in addition to the AIM-9Bs, although you start becoming pretty heavy once you're doing that. So I would only ever recommend doing that in ground realistic battles. But in air battles, just stick to the Sidewinders. Please don't try to bomb bases with this thing. It's not very good at it. And I know it's a common thing that premium players like to do. Just don't. This aircraft will not be good at that. Get something else. Get an A-10. You'll be much happier trying to do that. But with this, stick to the missiles. And a lot of people will say AIM-9Bs are useless. Look at my YouTube channel. There's a lot of shorts of me getting kills with these things. But their best use is actually to fire a missile at somebody and make them turn and bleed some energy so you can catch up to them and kill them with your guns. When I first started playing this aircraft, I was too focused on getting kills exclusively with the missiles, and I was not doing as well. And as soon as I was using the missiles more as a tool to help me lure the enemy and get them trapped in a position where I could kill them, I started doing a lot better. That's not saying the missiles can't get kills on their own. If there's someone that's running away from you, you can fire a missile at them, and either they'll turn and avoid it and you can catch up to them, or it'll run into them and they'll die. And these missiles almost always get a kill. It's maybe been 1 or 2 times where I've got a crit and they manage to survive. Other than that, it's pretty much a one-shot, one-kill weapon. And you have to be careful not to lock on teammates or the sun. They really like the sun. But if you're smart with them, they will do really well. Nobody at this battle rating has flares, and nobody at this battle rating is taking rocket pods to try and disrupt you from making makeshift flares. So, no one expects these things, They're very potent weapons if used properly. But you can't just spam these things off and expect to get results. You have to use them strategically, and it pays to save one toward the end of the match where most people are expecting you to already be out of missiles, and typically aren't even expecting any kind of missile at all, and you can surprise people with it. The guns are very good. They can strafe ground targets, they can shred most aircraft. The lower mounting, all centered line on the nose is a very interesting setup that I'm not that big of a fan of, but I've gotten used to as I've been playing the aircraft more, and I kind of like it. This aircraft is also a naval aircraft, so you can land an MV-ARM on carriers, and on maps that have it, you will get a carrier spawn, which is kind of fun and unique. Now, for ground battles, this is 8.0, and in the next update, Hornet Sting, we will be getting in both the German and the French tech trees, which is kind of fitting because this aircraft is in both of those tech trees. We will be getting the Martyr Clovis premium tank. And that will also be a battle rating 8.0, unless something changes by the time the update comes out. And if you're not familiar with the Martyr Clovis, just take a look at this. You also have the DF-105, which is also being added to the French tech tree and is already in the German tech tree. So there's a lot of great ground options to pair with it. And as far as ground ordnance goes, I'd recommend picking a pair of 1,000-pound bombs as well as the Sidewinders. Especially at this battle rating, no one is expecting the Sidewinder in ground realistic battles. Ever. Helicopters in particular are pretty fun to try to target with these things, although you have to be careful that they don't lock onto the wreckage of destroyed tanks, as those also have very hot heat signatures that the missile will like to target instead of the helicopter. But in most cases, you don't really have to worry about that. The guns are also incredibly good for this. You can load up armor-piercing ground belts, and a lot of tanks at this battle rating are beginning to adopt the no armor is best armor doctrine and are favoring speed, and 20mm cannons will shred through those lightly armored tanks just as they would at lower battle ratings. So keep that in mind. The two 1,000-pound bombs are great options for taking out heavier tanks. And if you wanted to, you could take rockets. I haven't tried this yet, but it does have a wide assortment of AP Mark IIs or RP3 rockets. Take your pick. And it's a very, very fun aircraft. I've had more luck with it at air realistic. In ground realistic, you do have radar-guided SPAA that can pose a little bit of a threat to you, but overall, I've had good luck with it, kind of regardless of where I've taken it, and I'm excited to see where it does in the next update. I do have one honorable mention that didn't quite make the list, mostly because if you're buying it by yourself, it's not that great, but if you and your friends are all going to buy one and fly them together, it can be kind of fun. And that is the BV-238. This thing is an absolute battleship in the skies. You have 4 quad turrets that each have 13mm MG-131 machine guns, as well as 2 turret-mounted 20mm MG-151 cannons. That turret is mounted on the top. The other 4 turrets are either mounted in the nose, in the tail, or one in each wing. You also have 20 250-kilogram bombs. And it has a crew of 7, and because it is so large, it can take an absolute beating before going down. Now, this aircraft, it's suffered a little bit lately. There's been more and more aircraft that have been pushed down in lower battle ratings that have armament that can actually deal with this thing. Whereas before, most of the stuff it was going up against were 50 cals or 7.7mm machine guns. 20mm are a big threat to this, but it is actually pretty fun. It can take a pretty big beating. You have 6 engines, and so if you lose 1 or 2, not a big deal. And because it's so large, damage really doesn't end up taking out the crew very often. You have a lot of bomb load. They're in the wings instead of in the aircraft itself, so they're actually pretty well protected. And you're going to take out 2 bases with this thing, probably more than that. And if for some reason you're crazy enough to take it out in ground realistic, you'll carpet bomb the whole match. It is a very fun and very meme-worthy aircraft. I can't say it's a particularly good aircraft, but I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's currently in the War Bond shop, so if the P-40F-5 really didn't appeal to you, and other aircraft which are mostly lower tier aircraft that probably a lot of players already have, if none of those appeal to you, this may be worth picking up, or save your war bonds for next time. But it's a fun one, and if you're lucky enough to get a low tier night battle, which are incredibly rare like what I got, it can actually be a lot of fun. These things are just laser beams in the sky, and I would recommend this aircraft if you're going to play it with your friends and do a bomber formation. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on what are the top 5 premium aircraft in WarThunder, and let me know what you guys thought should have been on the list down in the comment section below. I'll see you guys in the next one.